Do not let your mind drift as a new player in Destiny 2 because contrary to the expectations set from my previous session, this game does not mess around, as I soon find out. I returned the following day after acquiring the DLCs through the Story So Far Humble Bundle deal for $40. At that price, it seemed pretty worth it to me. I logged into my warlock and, funnily enough, the first banner that greets me is the one where it asks me to pre-order the Final Shape DLC. I don't know if I'm going to pre-order it, but I probably will buy it to be honest. The design of the pre-order gun looks incredible, but I don't know how to feel about locking guns behind pre-orders. The text does specifically say pre-order to instantly unlock, so as long as you don't have to do some stupid and inane time-wasting BS to acquire the weapon, then it's probably fine. I take a look at the new light quest and can indeed now participate in a Nightfall. Thanks to some comments from my previous video, apparently not all Nightfalls are locked from new players. They rotate weekly, and because of this, depending on when you try to access them, the third step of the new light quest can indeed be done as a free-to-play player. I still think it would make more sense to force the player into a more curated Nightfall experience for their first time, but it is good to know that this is possible free-to-play. Before queuing up, I head over to the tower. Once there, I run around checking if anything brand new has popped up, and there has at the terminal. Here are some special rewards that I can pick up. The Argent Turbo is an exotic sparrow, and the Quicksilver Storm is an exotic auto rifle. For the rifle, we also get a skin called the Neomuna Knight, and no cap, it looks pretty ugly, especially when examining it from the screen. The rest of the stuff I collect are some unique materials like Ascendant Alloys, Ascendant Shards, and exotic ciphers. Very cool. Of course, after that, I don't waste any more time and enter Nightfall matchmaking at hero difficulty. We spawn in at Maya's retreat in Neomuna. Kato, the Cabal princess, calls in to let us know that Shaw Legion units have shifted their attention to the Cloud Arc. Nimbus, the space skateboarder dude, suggests that this is why Neomuna's defense systems are reading as offline. He also suggests that Vex punks are poking too close at the city's internals. As I stand alone, by myself, I begin to think that this strike had already begun, and try to catch up and run past all the enemies. This results in my death. This initial thought was most likely wrong, because soon after that, someone else joins in, and then another person after that. With everyone now together, we work together to clear the small group of enemies while treading the path forward. Unfortunately, as I try to jump my way up, I die once again. The respawn brings us back close enough to where I can catch up after just a few more jumps. Now able to make my way into the cave, the first enemy I run into is an unstoppable Incendior. This is a buffed version of the typical flamethrower wielding Cabal, and not only does it deal a massive amount of damage, but it can also take a ton. I take a couple of potshots at it and try to evade it in general. However, as I make my way to a higher elevation, the Cabal Legionnaires follow through and run me down, resulting in another death. I run back in after respawning and can actually move around since the threat has moved deeper in. Being able to assault the troops from multiple angles allows us to whittle down the forces little by little. I revive one of my teammates and try to re-engage Incendior from a different angle. The unstoppable Incendior decided to keep on engaging with my teammates, and thus instead of fighting the weaker mobs, I disengaged and isolated myself from their lines of sight. I take a couple of potshots at the unstoppable Incendior before following through with a couple of melee hits. Once my HP is dropped, I back out and take a few more shots. I notice the white dot appear above the foe and run in, killing it at once. Engagements like this make finishers against tough creatures vital, especially in more hectic situations. We push forward and both of my teammates die to some gladiators, requiring me to revive them. As we expose ourselves to the cave's other opening, our ghost informs us that we're looking at a Taken Blight. The Shadow Legion is forcing Taken into a Vex pocket. So true, Oomphy. Nimbus calls in. Apparently, the Vex Snake uses gateways that are comparable to the Cloud Arc. They can use this to infiltrate the network and gain access to the Veil, which is obviously a bad thing. I make my way forward and die. Our teammate revives us, and I understand that I actually have to try. The semi-beachfront aesthetic along with the pools of water and flora that grow in it make this area look really nice, but I don't get any of the distinct Neomuna vibes. I use my super and begin to slaughter a bunch of trash mobs. However, as I was unaware of the damage thresholds, I got close to Tonic, Imprint of Nezarec, and it took me down from 80% health to just 1%, which led to a death instantly after. I respawn and evade this unstoppable incendior just long enough to revive my teammate. The champion does return moments later and I finish it then. With the high ground secured, I can slowly shoot at Tonic while maintaining some security. Additional reinforcements arrive soon after, and this forces me out of position. Tonic's void slashes are able to hone in on us and, without the proper cover, splashes against us, which results in yet another gray screen. After reviving myself, I manage to revive my teammates with Tonic right on our trail. Unfortunately, even though we make it back to the high ground, our teammate is fighting against another unstoppable incendior. Tonic jumps up to join in on the fun and forces me out of position. It doesn't let up and jumps back down, imprinting my screen gray once more. I managed to do a good job of staying alive and managed to revive my teammates several times as their timer comes up. This allowed us to sustain enough damage to at least take down all of the weaker creatures while leaving Tonic alive. It's still a piece of shit though, as it continues to target me even though I drop and kills me as a result. My teammate Remorso 4 axes bait while Forever Dark revives me. We continue our assault in full force and wipe the imprint of Nezarec off the face of Neomuna. However, we aren't even given enough time to take a breath. A virtual wormhole spawns on the ground and we fall through it in order to enter the Vex network. Nimbus lets us know that the Clardark is built on the energy field produced by the Veil, and while it is resilient, it isn't impenetrable. Hopefully we're able to beat the Taken, and with this we are in the ingress. This location looks dramatically distinct from the outside surface of Neomuna. A cybernetic aesthetic has taken over completely, and it results in some striking obstacles and locations. Of course, as we jump across from one side to the next, I learned that one thing hasn't changed, and that's how many times I'm going to die. We clear most of the mobs on the immediate descent, and I manage to finish the champion in order to revive my teammate. I try to get into cover and drop down a well, but a Taken Phalanx blasts us off the edge. I have a feeling that the Phalanx enemy type is going to be a reoccurring personal enemy throughout my journey. I manage to kill the bastard as I fall, at the very least. Forever Dark stuns the unstoppable Taken Phalanx and stacks the super, allowing us to take care of it without becoming a problem. We engage in a little bit of jumping and make our way towards an open area full of magical black spheres, which I understand as Taken Blights. I didn't have a good chance to talk about it, so I'll include it here, but the gun I'm using is the exotic hand cannon, the Rat King. I have no idea how I got this gun from when I played 1 or 2 sessions many years ago, but it was in my collections. And to be honest, this gun kinda sucks. I don't know about if it sucks numbers or perks wise, but the way it feels really trash for a hand cannon. That's why I keep on switching over to my secondary hand cannon over and over again. I also have the Crown of Tempest helmet for my armor exotic. Ikora Ray gives you 3 exotic quests at the tower. I didn't include them in the previous video because it ending at the New Light quest not being accessible made more sense in terms of the video's overarching narrative. But what happened was that I included this raw footage in with my free-to-play footage as they happened at the same day. I deleted that footage because I needed the free space to record future gameplay. In any case, I didn't even remember doing those quests and only realized I did them when I googled how I obtained the Crown of Tempest in the first place. That should probably clue you in into what I thought about those quests. Now, for the helmet itself, visually I really like how it looks. Its effects of killing jolted targets or killing with arc abilities, increasing the recharge rate of our arc abilities themselves, seems pretty good to me as well. The Taken Blights acted as a nice moment of respite as we could shoot mindlessly. We push further into the network and are forced onto our Sparrow. I wasn't exactly ready for this to happen and immediately get hit by a dark pulse. This slows us down to where we can't even clear the smallest of gaps, and I die as a result. Now more aware of the dangers, the second time through is still full of mistakes, but is just good enough for us to get far enough to trigger a checkpoint. I jump across and am somehow the first to arrive. I started blasting. Remorse comes flying in as Forever Dark dies, still stuck halfway across the map. We jump up and try to clear the path forward. I run into 2 hobgoblins, literally, and die. I meleeed, but forgot that my subclass was running Chain Lightning and not one that could send out a ranged blast. Whoops. On the revive, I jump up and pre-fire the 2 hobgoblins, managing to matrix dodge one of their attacks in the process. Unfortunately, I then miss far too many shots against the blight. The overload taken hobgoblin almost takes care of me and forces me back into cover. I thought this wall was good at first, but realized my mistake a moment after. I was lucky that at least the AIs weren't real people and couldn't instantly have capitalized on my initial mistake. I took some shots at it from a distance, almost dying multiple times in the process. Forever Dark joins us and just runs in, but is taken care of before I can even fire off all the rounds in my chamber. I try to go in for the revive, but realize that it's just better if I stay alive. Forever Dark tries again and I join them as they jump over. They stun the champion while I just empty my load. I switch over to my sword for a split second, but when I see the foot stomp come down, I back away and switch back to my gun. I avoid the champion's shots and switch back to my sword. Forever Dark had already been in the process of stunning the champion, so I expected them to do so again. This read paid off and allowed us to get in enough attacks so I could finish the champion off. This next session is a Mario Maker level where we need to dodge all of the darkness bullets while going straight. Nimbus lets us know that the Taken haven't been here for long and have already managed to occupy most of this Vex pocket. Cadle agrees and thinks that if we had waited any longer, this place would be much worse. Truly some 300 IQ observations. Cleansing the Taken rifts gets incredibly hectic, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. We ascend and enter the central control area. Our goal now is to defeat the Taken Hydra before it opens a path into the Cloud Arc. Parthenios, Drifting Mind, has entered the chat. We split up, but in 15 seconds, Forever Dark sees the light. I only managed to take a few more shots before becoming the last Guardian moments before disaster. We respawn and try again. The second time around, I try to establish a little corner of control with remorse, but we are pushed apart. I can't even begin to consider the potential of reviving Forever Dark when I can't even stay alive myself. This random phalanx jump scares me as it's already up my ass. I die as a result. Remorse manages to pick me up, but goes down soon after. I avoid any engagements and revive Remorse to then allow us to then revive Forever Dark. With most of the trash mobs gone, I use my super and get in some damage against Parthenios. After that is when I decided that the Rat King just wasn't cutting it, so I switched over to the Quicksilver Storm. The skin looked better in game thanks to the flowing bits and has a pretty clean zoom in. I don't know if I'm doing more damage with the gun, but being able to empty 50 bullet mags at a rapid pace feels pretty good at the very least. We break past the first health bar and that begins the second phase of the Parthenios boss fight. The Taken reinforcements have arrived and we need to destroy their blights. I jump up to the second layer in order to pick up an Arc Cranium weapon, but Parthenios just beams me down. Remorse becomes the last Guardian standing for 2 seconds, but I managed to revive myself. However, I didn't anticipate being spawned right next to the Hydra itself and thus die again moments after. I tried my best to hold down my position, but suddenly became the last Guardian, and because I was out of line, end up dying to a Goblin. Alright, this begins round 3 against the Hydra, and surely it will go better this time around. I stay in the middle of the field and wait for the Hydra to spawn in, so I can use my super immediately. Unfortunately, I do basically no damage and have to retreat. I drop a well, but a phalanx tries to shove me off the map. I manage to cling onto the edge and run around it in order to revive my teammate. The Hydra then proceeds to knock me out. I come back to life and run around the map in order to revive Forever Dark. Remorse dies, and I run across the map in order to revive them as well. In an unfortunate but too real moment, I run into Forever Dark and block them for a single moment. Thus, we both die as a result. I think we would have died even if I hadn't run into them, but what are you gonna do? Remorse revives me, and I revive Forever Dark. The next 2 minutes are then spent on bringing Parthenios' health down so we can enter the next phase. The second phase starts off in a terrible situation. Forever Dark dies, but I still find myself on this side of the map. Since I'm here, I might as well take care of this Minotaur. Of course, I take out my sword, but my swing misses completely. Not only that, but once I land, I fail to find cover close by, which allows the phalanx to push me towards the edge. and I decided to run off of it this time around. Hate to see it. Slowly but surely, we make Parthenios lose health and can finally enter the third phase of the fight. The taken rifts have re-emerged and we must cleanse them. These rifts are constantly shooting out balls of darkness that basically one-shot you. This adds another dimension of gameplay to the fight. We take control of the upper layers and close out the rifts in order to begin the third phase proper. We begin clearing out most of the trash mobs that joined in and kept the fighting arena relatively free of clutter. This allowed me to walk up and get closer to the Hydra. I unleash my super on it and then try to maintain a decent distance while trying to stay alive. The Hydra homing missiles knock me out. Forever Dark is able to be revived but doesn't. Luckily, Remorse found the cover he needed. Forever Dark finally gets to his keyboard and revives. This allows Remorse to then revive me. We continue fighting and Forever Dark ends up dying. I pop a well and revive him. Right after I revive Dark, Remorse ends up dying. I make my way to Remorse and Dark dies again. I bring back Remorse and we can bring back Dark. Yeesh. After those shenanigans, we manage to group up and take out Parthenios once and for all. And with that, we have completed our first ever Nightfall. I get a bunch of materials for my rewards and rank up to Brave 2, 5 yellow squares. It only took 60 minutes and 9 seconds, but we did it. Nice. I ended the previous video of my new player experience with a major con of how easy the content was. And I gotta say, I got what I asked for. The combination of lacking mastery over basic gameplay fundamentals and having no knowledge or expectations of the obstacles present in a Nightfall strike led to a difficult yet engaging experience. None of the mechanics were inherently confusing, but some stuff not being explained, like the champion enemies and how to stun them, could have led to more annoying situations if we didn't have someone here that knew what they were doing. The game sends us back into orbit, and I head on over to the quest section. I check up to see how much progress we have made and how much further I will have to go. I'm glad to let you know that after defeating Parthenios, the Drifting Mind, we have accumulated 1% of the total amount of points we need to progress. 1 whole percent. I think the silence for me speaks volumes. I took a brief break after this, and when I returned, I decided to focus on the anomalous object quest instead, and head on over to Nessus for now. The map has the area that the lost sector is close to, but not the exact location, so it takes me a bit of looking around to find this cave entrance. We head down the hard-angled corridor, enter the rift, and take care of the dregs inside. The next area has a bit of jumping, and we're going to ignore what just happened now. I make the jump across on my first try and clear out the area in order to loot this lost sector chest. This marks the quest as complete, and we have to return to failsafe to turn it back in. I teleport back to the artifact's edge and jump off said edge. As I descend, I decided to take out my sparrow, and that forced me to learn a terrible lesson as I spiraled into a gray screen. I forgot failsafe even existed, but the character of an AI forcing themselves to speak in an overly joyous and positive manner can be quite interesting. I tried to turn the quest in, but I actually encountered a bug and got stuck at the screen where I have to claim a legendary emblem. The quest is no longer in my log, so I assume that it is complete and don't bother making the trek all the way back here. I teleport on over to Helm and meet up with Queen Marasov. To summarize the wall of text that is Riven's wishes 1, Riven wishes for us to be rewarded for our efforts and left behind a gift. Marasov tried to figure out if it was a trap, but couldn't find any treacheries within. Riven's wishes 2 just has Marasov waxing poetic. Riven's wishes 3 informs us that Petra is out there with renewed zeal as she tries to find a way to wrest the Awoken from Dual Incarnu's grasp. Good luck to her, I guess. Riven's wishes 4 lets us know that our next challenge awaits us in the Blind Well. All this text here is just to justify the ending pun that Marasov says, as she wishes for us to fight well. Riven's wishes 5 lets us know that we have to defeat a powerful enemy in the heart of Rhea Silvia. She then says some words about Crow and how he is like a distant vessel on a turbulent sea. This is an interesting development to learn of after learning about their history in the previous episode. In Riven's wishes 6, we learn that Eris Morn has been rejuvenated as of late. It was through her that Mara learned about the drifters and communications with the Nine. I believe this is the first time I've heard about the Nine faction so far. After all that, Mara starts a monologue. According to the Witch Queen scrolls, the curse on the Dreaming City cannot be lifted, but she cannot stop trying to bring her people home. The return of the Ahamkara will be devastating, but for now, taking care of the witness is of the utmost priority. Our reward is the seasonal artifact of the Queen's Foil Sensor. I accept the Wishing All the Best quest, and it's only a casual 55 steps to complete. The artifact takes up our final empty inventory slot and grants us some bonus power. In addition to that, obtaining seasonal experience allows us to upgrade the artifact itself and gain some bonus perks. Reading the flavor text reveals some novel information. Wishes are a verbally expressed desire expressed within audible range of any Ahamkara. The wish is then granted through invocation through something known as the Anthem Anathema, a power which allows the wielder to subject reality to one's will. This is similar to our ability to manipulate the paracausal energies of the light and darkness. The wisher enters a binding contract with the Ahamkara. The Ahamkara will purposefully manipulate or misinterpret the parameters of the contract in order to then draw greater nourishment for themselves. This means that the Ahamkara wishes act more like a genie's wishes rather than a monkey paw situation. This also aids in explaining the terrible situation the Dreaming City finds itself in right now. The next section is on some of the verifiable information we have on the Ahamkara. Their bones are able to retain intelligence and sentience even after death. It is also surmised that an Ahamkara's corporeal body is not even its true form. By granting wishes, the Ahamkara are able to alter reality and consume the quantum chaos that results from such an act in order to transcend reality itself. This altering reality ability is supported by data which confirms species-wide capability to polymorph. Ahamkara bones can grant wishes themselves, even if the process is quite troublesome. Ahamkara are also not solitary creatures. While many adults patrol the solar system alone, their territories still overlap, and disputes are quite rare. In fact, in one report, a dozen Ahamkara on Venus congregated at a nexus of their territories, all without any conflict. For the unverified information, there are 3 reports from an old Russian that claim an Ahamkara wielded the light. This has never been confirmed, but even without knowing too much, I wouldn't be too surprised if this ended up being true. 7 Ahamkara have managed to evade and slay their Lightbearer pursuers and are still unaccounted for. This report is believed to be an error in its totality, and I don't know what I'm supposed to make of this bit of specific information. I wonder if it's here to help explain some other random lore tidbit and clear up some misinformation. Alright, that was a lot of information to process in total, and I needed a break from all of the current events that were taking place. Thus, I decided to work through the campaign missions. I started with the Awakening campaign located in the Dreaming City. A cutscene begins, and a voice explains that before Queen Mara went to war, she left behind 3 orders: protect our people, hide our secrets, believe in the plan. This individual that is speaking has protected, has hidden, and has believed, and now she wants answers. And I can't help but agree with her. I too want some answers. The voice wants us to know what drove Uldren to madness, wants to repel the curse that has taken over the city, but most importantly, she wants to see her queen again, as she doesn't know if she still lives. That last part is something I can fulfill with ease, as I'm just one fast travel away from talking to the queen. It is unfortunate that the mystery of Queen Marasav's life doesn't exist for me, but I am more interested in what led Uldren to madness, as that is what most likely what led him to kill Cade in the first place. I actually ended up returning to the tower first in order to do some general housekeeping. I talked to Ikora Ray, and she gives us the quest, In the Shadow of the Mountain. Cool. I move on to the next screen and try to pick up the available quest, but even though I have all the DLC, I still need to purchase the Witch Queen dungeon key with silver for 10 bucks. It is pretty cringe that this doesn't just come attached with the 2-year-old DLC and is a separate purchase entirely. I wanted to switch up the gameplay, and now with some more glitter, I am able to purchase some more abilities and fragments. For the Dawnblade Warlock, I'm going to go with the Phoenix Dive, since it's a unique option. For the other subclasses, the damage wall might be better overall, but I need the healing crutch. And besides, staying alive allows me to deal more damage overall anyways. Phoenix Dive heals us, cures nearby allies, and while Heat Rises is active, I gain restoration while diving and can scorch targets upon landing. Pretty cool stuff, but I will let you know beforehand that I do not use this ability properly at all, since it requires a little bit more setup than just dropping a well at my feet. Since I went for the burst glide on my Arc Warlock, I decided to change it up and went for a balanced glide here. For my melee, I went with Incinerator Snap, as it makes you snap your fingers and send out a volley of sparks. This has to be one of the most satisfying abilities I've ever used. The animation is smooth and the act itself is clean AF. The tripwire nade seemed pretty interesting, but I kept it simple for now and just took a basic firebolt grenade. Touch of Flame enhances our grenade depending on which one we have selected, and Icarus Dash is a neat solar aspect that allows us to dodge while airborne. Ember of Combustion seems like a pretty standard fragment, as Final Blows with a super ignites targets and creates a fire sprite. Ember of Char makes solar ignition spread Scorch to affected targets. Ember of Wonder makes it so rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions generates an orb of power. Ember of Searing makes it so defeating scorched targets grants melee and creates a fire sprite. All of these seem fairly complementary to each other, as the goal is to just make everything burn. For my super, I went with Daybreak, because I didn't have the other super unlocked. Not true. Not a tough decision there. Alright, we return back to the quest and find ourselves in a foggy void. Each step takes us in an unknown direction, and there are no markers to help guide us. Well, actually, if we head in the wrong direction for too long, we reach the bounds of the map and just fall dead. Not long after, I spot the giant structure from the cutscene in the distance and head in its direction. However, it is too far. This results in me wandering around this area in complete confusion for a few minutes. I'm actually okay with this being disorientating. I don't even think there needs to be any more hints or guides on where to go, because this area isn't that large to begin with. I make my way out of the fog and get on top of these hills. I make use of my Icarus Dash just to get used to hitting the key. As I reach the other side, we end up entering the Ascendant Plane in an absurdly smooth transition. Like damn, that was clean. Our light here is restricted. The darkness filter that desaturates your screen isn't even distracting and adds to the overall spooky vibes. The Taken are an interesting enemy type because they blink around every so often. I wouldn't even be surprised if every time you look at them while aiming down sights, that chance that they blink increases, as it certainly feels like that's the case. I take care of Valgrask, Warmth of Riven, with a single snap. The voice of someone named Toland contacts us and questions why we are here in this location when it is the dreamland of our enemies. He questions himself, wondering if he is to be our Virgil, in what I assume can only be a reference to Devil May Cry. Some floating platforms form, and I follow them up. The giant temple in the distance is an impressive sight to behold, and once again aids in the sense of scale being experienced right now. Toland says that we walk blind above an abyss, wishing for a voice to trust, and this only plays right into her hands. It warns us to leave the dreaming city while we still can before finding ourselves having left the Ascendant Plane. Once again, the transition out was exceptionally smooth. Not only visually, but by placing some enemies directly in our line of sight, it shows us where we need to go next while making us engage in some gunplay. We make our way into a cave clearing where there is a marbled structure ornamented with a giant white ball. I take care of the acolytes and finish off this ravenous Taken Knight. The next area we need to clear is this stone bridge, illuminated by some vibrant blue crystals. We continue forward and stumble into Petra's ship. It's only now that I see a ship here near the ground that I realize that we've never gotten the opportunity to fly our own ship. Instead, everything is done through fast traveling to different locations. I'm pretty neutral on this choice because I can definitely understand why this system is not included in this specific type of game. I finish off Erlos, Greeting of Riven, with my Dawnblade and then slice Mat Azar, Riven's Welcome, a minute later. I open up the gate to the temple and take a second to admire the incredibly detailed texture on these doors. We meet up with Petra. She knows what happened to Uldren and that she has to tell the queen ASAP. This causes her to manipulate this visually impressive rotating planetary mechanical system. The calibration is good and the signal is strong, but we are still missing an offering. We proceed to learn that this type of system is called an oracle. Our ghost asks what happened to Uldren. Petra just says that there is an immense creature at the heart of this place, but doesn't say any more as the queen must be the first to know. She apologizes for vague posting at the very least. I approach Petra and get a pop-up to talk to her, but it is marked as optional. Optional dialogue like this is kind of weird for a game with a pretty linear campaign. Our ghost continues to question Petra. The Awoken managed to evacuate just before the Taken War. She ordered for everything to be locked down before sealing herself and the Techians in the Watchtower. It's here where Mara made a deal with the spider. I have no doubt that this so-called spider refers to Riven. It is interesting to hear someone else refer to Riven outside of her name though. I went with alien space rhino with tentacles, but spider isn't that bad of a comparison. No one was supposed to return to this place until everything was safe, but the situation is no longer the same. The location we are at is also sacred, and as an outsider, we are lucky to see this place. My warlock is a human, but I wonder if I came here with my awoken hunter, if this line would change. I kinda suspect that it wouldn't, but I am interested in finding out. Additional dialogue reveals that the Awoken built hidden cities, plural, like this throughout the Reef. Some of them were used to build weapons and others would train armies. This city, the Dreaming City, is the most sacred of them all, and this is where they learn from greater powers in order to transcend. Petra goes into further detail and explains that this machine is called an Oracle Engine, and legends say that Queen Marasov used it to walk between realities. No one knows where she went, but they could use this engine to talk to her. Our ghost points out that Petra talks about Queen Marasov like she's alive. While Uldren was not himself, he believed he heard her voice, and so Petra believes she lives. There is quite a bit of dramatic irony at play here, because not only do we know that Queen Mara is alive, we've engaged in plenty of dialogue with her as well. For the sake of the campaign, though, I will engage in some suspension of disbelief. It's also a good thing that there are multiple plot threads going on to keep me invested in a different portion of the story. The question for us is not how is Marasov, but what is Marasov up to? The madness consuming Uldren is also a big question mark. Petra further clarifies that she doesn't believe that the voice Uldren heard was her queen's. She simply just believes in Queen Mara's plan. Petra then asks if we've seen the Queen Techians. Our ghost brings up the three women from earlier. Petra confirms their identity and displays some ire at the Taken for corrupting them. These women helped raise Petra, so she will do anything to save them. This fact, along with the blind faith devotion she displays towards Queen Mara, shows how much Petra values loyalty as a trait. With no more optional dialogue to engage in, we leave. We cross this fancy bridge and enter the spine of Karis. The hills being giant space geodes act as the walls to keep us contained within this arena, while adding a bit of visual flair to the environment. I pop my super, Dawnblade, and burn Olika, sworn to the vengeance, into a pile of ash. We return to the base of the tower, but have to make our way up. We present the offering and are able to contact Queen Marasov. Upon hearing her voice, Petra breaks her character and expresses shock at her being alive. She quickly returns to her more formal state and informs the queen that her brother Uldren Sov is dead. Mara already knows. Petra goes on to explain how the Taken corrupted his soul and suffered from delusions that she believes to have been caused by Riven. Kali, Shiro, and Cydia, the queen's Techians, have also been taken. Petra seeks guidance on how to navigate this situation. Queen Marasov orders Petra to assemble a team and to send them into the heart of the city. Let the guardians through the gates and offer them the riches of the realm, as they must kill that creature and extract its heart. The battle rages on, so she must leave, but she will do her best to answer any messages we send her. Now I'm curious to where Queen Marasov is in the first place. With that, the quest ends. I head to the Devilian Mists and meet up with Petra. She doesn't have enough aid and cannot refuse our help. The Restless Slumber quest requires us to now complete some bounties, public events, and lost sectors. We also get a notice of a brief message she left her. This gives us the Hunter's Remembrance exotic quest. Some supplementary text is given for this quest as well. Petra holds out a case full of strange mementos. Despite their small size, their antiquity is apparent, as is the taken corruption clinging to them. Petra starts to speak, and you hear her righteous anger behind her clipped words. These are mementos of past awoken paladins. I don't know how the Fallen learned of them, but a taken attack targeted the mementos and desecrated them. Our honored dead deserve better. Take their mementos into the Shattered Throne and hunt down the taken responsible. Their blood will avenge the wrong that's been done and purify the tokens. Petra's frown deepens. The Fallen hid themselves well. My scouts revealed some clues, but you will have to search carefully. This finally gives us access to her main screen. In addition to the bounties, she also has 2 more quests, the Oracle Engine and the War for the Dreaming City. She sells charges of light and raid banners, but I don't think I will need those for now. After completing a patrol and taking care of the enemies outside, I entered a temple. Giant statues multiple times our size adorn the hallways. There are some impressive decorative walls as we find our way into the font of Starlight. As I arrive here, I notice several other guardians hovering around the area. This pillar requires charges of light of multiple tiers. I try to figure out how to leave this area, but end up getting caught up in this event. I run around aimlessly and take a sudden burst of damage and die as a result. There is a miasma outside that deals passive damage until we die, and thus as I respawn, I enter the shielded area while shooting the surrounded enemies. An ogre soon shows up and ends my life. The first phase ends, and I follow my fellow guardians until we are under the protection of another shield. Thralls, knights, and acolytes all start to spawn in and swarm our location. We clear the wave and the shield dissipates. I head on over to the next zone. After we clear the 4th wave, the miasma dissipates and the entire temple becomes a fighting arena as the final wave begins. An immense amount of enemies start to spawn in, and they begin to overwhelm our defenses. Our goal is to defeat the Herald of Plague, but I'm just focused on staying alive. I only end up dying when I run into a cursed thrall in close range with low HP. Some high-leveled guardian does the difficult task for us and completes the event. The well is voracious and according to our ghosts is overclocking. With this, the event is completed. I loot the chest and obtain some loot in the form of 2 weapons, a charge of light, 2 enhancement cores, and 6 dark fragments. I still can't find my way out of the temple and resort to fast traveling out. For now, I just need to work on Petra's quest and find my way towards the nearest public event. With those done, I still have to complete a lost sector, and the nearest one is located right behind where we spawn in at this fast travel location. I make my way into the cave and walk through a silly amount of narrow passageways until we arrive at the Bay of Drowned Wishes. There are some new enemies here. The stalkers act as the normal ranged trash mobs. The Screeb is a rabid, 6-armed creature that rushes us down. And abominations are the big dudes. This pop-up lets me know that this enemy type is called the Scorn. Cool. I make my way to the top of this tree on the top of this hill, but clip through a branch and fall all the way to the bottom. Instead of wasting any more time trying to break through the map, I just make my way towards the enemy camps. I clear the beachfront and find myself making my way deeper into the cave system. I clear the beachfront and find myself making my way deeper into the cave system. I burst Yorksea, Subversive Chieftain down, and that completes this lost sector. I find the Starcast and present it a gift. I'm pretty sure this Starcat is a part of the seasonal content, and funnily enough, it gives me better rewards than the lost sector chest itself. I make my way towards Aphelion's Rest next. This little space gazebo at the top of the hill ends up not being the correct location, so I double check the map. I am in the correct location, but if the lost sector isn't up here, then I might as well take a look down below. Urharuk, disciple of the Curia, is the guardian of this location, and they go down without much trouble. I find another star cat and offer it a gift before collecting the Lost Sector chest. There's still a third Lost Sector for me to complete. I end up scaling down this cliffside until I end up at the Chamber of Starlight. My Dawnblade takes care of Inkasi, the staple of Curia. With that, I've cleared through all the Lost Sectors into Dreaming City. There's also another Starcraft to gift as well. The Oracle Engine quest is the next list of tasks for us to take care of. Some of the introductory dialogue lets us know that the Oracle is unable to be repaired or replaced, which is why they cannot allow the observatory to fall. There are 3 mini-bosses in this area, and we need to defeat each of them. They all drop an arc charge, and we need to take it to a specific location in order to destroy the barrier. We complete the task and walk through in order to enter the next area. The iridescent lighting along with the descending god rays make the skybox in the next zone an astonishing sight to behold. There is some sort of mechanical object creating a passageway or rift in the sky, but that is just a guess from my end. Continuing up takes us back to a familiar location. This section is well paced with where and how many enemies block our path, even though it errs on the easier side. I think that's okay because I spend most of the time taking in the architecture and scenery around me. Petra asked about our status and we're approaching the observatory right now. I pick up the charge and then proceed to fail to make this jump an embarrassing amount of times. Realizing my mistakes, I get on top of this lamp-like structure and manage to jump across 4 times around. Now that I've entered the spine of Keras, I make my way to the top in order to gain the high ground. Muckor, Soulkeeper, is an ogre that spawns in the middle of the tower. I use my Dawnblade against it and drop it down to around 20% total HP. However, the assault has just gotten started, and another Soulkeeper ogre named Urgoth joins the fray. Ogres are some of the most annoying creatures to fight against because in addition to their health pool, the rapid eye blast attacks will delete your health if you don't play around cover. The large boss monsters taking up most of the space in the center, combined with the smaller enemies constantly closing in on you from the sides, alongside the environmental disturbances, all contribute to making this truly feel like a full-on assault by the Taken forces. We cleared the observatory and confirmed that the Oracle has not been damaged. Petra is thankful for these results. However, she can't shake the feeling that we were being outplayed by the enemy and falling directly into their hands. Our ghost suggests a different line of thought though. It surmises that because the Hive and Taken are not known for their cunning brilliance, all of the preceding events were not part of some master plan and simply just the best plan of actions those factions could act on at that time. Petra supposes that this could be true, and that's the end of the Oracle Engine quest. This was a pretty fun and relaxing quest overall. While there wasn't too much challenge, the location is nice to look at, and there are enough elements that switch up constantly to keep you engaged. While writing and editing, I decided to split up my footage into 2 shorter videos rather than producing one longer piece. At least for now, I believe that having more consistent uploads matters much more for the overall growth of the channel. Obviously, long videos won't go away. I mean, it's not even like this video is not much shorter. Over time, it will still add up to the same amount of content anyway. And don't worry, the 4th video is crazy. And with that, I must congratulate you as you have made it to the end of this video. If you made it thus far, I'd appreciate if you could also hit the like button, as that helps me out quite a bit. If you have any comments, leave them down below as I am currently able to respond to all of them and you will most likely get a decent reply from me. I would also appreciate it if you could share this video with your friends and subscribe as that also helps because I need to get to that magical 1K at some point. There are no end cards and widescreen videos for some reason, so visit my channel proper in order to check out the rest of my videos if you are interested. And with that, I wish you all a good night.